doing my own little presentation. I'm calling it the Nippon Counterpoint. So, for this week's topic, I'm talking about the Kinkakuji, which is this really, really famous temple in Kyoto that a lot of people know about. It's really famous because it's so beautiful. Like, the pond is just amazing. It reflects, and I would know as I've been there. With other people.
Nice shirt.
Oh yeah. Okay, so before we can talk about, what the temple is about, we have to talk about the person who created it, who is Ashikaga Yoshimitsu. Tongue twister name. But he was a shogun, and if you didn't know, shogun at the time around where he was living were kind of the people that were in charge of Japan. Like, they did have the emperor, but really shogun's the one that's getting everything done when it comes down to it. And especially this one did just crap tons of things for Japan. Like, one of his biggest accomplishments was that he secured the throne of the emperor in the first place, as there was a schism that had sort of broken out before he came into rule, where there was sort of this disagreement. Like, there was an Eastern court that said that one guy was the emperor, and then another court that said, no, it's this guy, and he settled that. The other thing he did was he settled a problem with pirates that had set up in the middle of the strait between Japan and the rest of Asia. So he wrecked that, said screw that, and opened up trade with China again, which hadn't happened in so long. So at that point, Chinese traders finally got to come in and got to trade with Japan for the first time in forever. And the rulers of China at the time, when they looked at the people who, had gotten it, they had the current emperor who was really just sat on his ass, and the shogun who did everything. So when they gave the credit, they're like, well, I'm not going to acknowledge you, the emperor, as ruler. I'm acknowledging the shogun that actually did everything, which made the emperor pretty sad. So because of all this trade, Japan was just swimming in money. Like, it opened up a new renaissance for Japan in general, where just tons of temples, tons of art, just everything was beautiful, everything was amazing. And you would think, for such a nice guy that's done so much for Japan, he wouldn't revel in it, he would just, sort of enjoy it, sit back, but you would be wrong. He spent tons of money, he just got so much money from all of this, and with it he decided to build this big golden temple. Now, originally, this wasn't a Buddhist temple, though he built it to be Buddhist heaven on earth. This was his own little living quarters, and he was kind of a little arrogant about it, to be honest. Like, the pond that's around the area was built to represent all of Japan, so there are like all these different islands representing the different regions and everything, so that, every morning when he woke up, he could just go down, walk into that nice golden veranda, look down and be like, ah, my country. And it's not easy to know because they don't really show off the inside of it very much, but he had two giant statues built, one of the Buddha and one of himself. And he put himself on equal level with the Buddha, which in terms of respect, that's basically saying that he considers himself on level with God. So, pretty cocky there. And what else we got? What ended up happening was, he did his thing as shogun for quite a while and then passed away, and his son decided, well, I'm not going to live on in the memory of him being kind of a giant douchebag and bragging to the entirety of Japan, and instead converted it into a Zen Buddhism worship temple. And so now the area around it is pretty much between a big tourist attraction, a big high school, well, not high school, but just school in general, trip, field trip place, and so on. And it's the temple that we know about today. That's it for the slides, but just a fun fact for the week, for people who are wondering, this is actually not the original temple. Like pretty much every temple, like if you go to Japan and you go to a temple, you might as well ask them like when it burned down and when they renovated it. Because at least for every temple that I've gone to, That's been the case.
It burned down?
This burned down, and they had to rebuild it, and it has the shape that it has now. It used to have a different shape. But yeah, that's my Nippon counterpoint for this week. Yes?
Do you remember what our guide was telling us that like the bottom level was controlled because that's where the emperor went or something?
Yeah, that's the other thing. I forgot about that.
Oh my god.
When the emperor would come and visit, and you would stay with him, he would live up on like the top spot, and he would make the emperor sleep on the ground floor. Like, complete disrespect. This guy knew what was up.
Well done.
Thank you.